Friday morning here in the city of Ibadan. This is AM Live, and my name is Adiola Adegoke.
And I am Precious Amaye. Thanks for joining us this morning again. It's AM Live, our morning show here on New Frontiers Television. We do have a lot of things, like we always say, lined up for you, and we're going to go straight to one of those things we have lined up for you now. Of course, is our big stories this morning. You know that the president of the country, which is President Muhammadu Buhari, is out of the country right now for medical vacation, if we could call it that, for medical treatment, in London. While we are wishing him well, he did transmit a letter to the National Assembly. He left on March 7? March 7 or March 5? Sorry, May 7, rather, May 7. And before he left, he did transmit a letter to the National Assembly to inform them of his leaving the country, and also saying that the vice president will now be the acting president according to the constitution. And while he's away, the acting president has been, acting in full swing. And one of the things he has done now is to sign 3 executive orders into law.
Yes, the acting president, Yemi Osinbajo, yesterday signed 3 executive orders into law, and while doing that, he had an interactive session with head of ministries, head of departments and agencies of the federal government yesterday. And the 3 executive orders are just to promote they are based on policy issues. And the first one is the promotion of transparency and efficiency in the business environment, designed to facilitate the ease of doing business in the country. The second is timely submission of annual budgetary estimates by all statutory and non-statutory agencies, including companies owned by the federal government. And the third is support for local content in public procurement by the federal government. All of these orders are basically based on the economy of the country, and with the 2 weeks ultimatum that the National Assembly is giving the acting president for all federal government agencies and other departments to submit their budgets. I think so. There is a law now that states that every agencies, both statutory and non-statutory, are expected to submit their budgets, annual budgets, alongside the national budget as soon as it is being submitted.
Sure. And we know that this has been a strong passion for the acting president since he came into office, and since Nigeria was announced as one of the low-ranking countries on the ease of doing business index. The vice president had taken, while the president was around, had taken that mantle to ensure that Nigeria ranks high on the ease of doing business. And he became, while he became the head of the president's economic team, he's actually put a lot of effort into doing that. I've seen a lot of policies being put in place to ensure that Nigeria ranks high in the ease of doing business index, and not just to rank high in the ease of doing business index, but to actually have ease of doing business. We see that there are already reforms in the Corporate Affairs Commission, and one of the reforms going on in the Corporate Affairs is the fact that people are able to register their business on time and register their business online. So you do your name search and you do all of that online, and you don't have to wait for 3 months to get your business registered. That is already in place, and now the president is signing, the acting president rather, is signing all of these executive orders that have to do with ease of doing business. Because if it's easy for people to do the business, then economy can then fall in place. Foreigners have always complained of how difficult it is to do business in Nigeria. They've always complained about, look, before we get a contract signed, before you get the contract, you have to put it in the papers for about 6 weeks, and then you have to, there are a lot of processes to get things done here, and they're very tedious and make delayed business, tie money down, and people have always complained about that before money, switches hand, it takes a lot of time, and those are the things that the acting president is looking to deal with. And then there's also the issue of transparency in doing business in Nigeria. Especially when you're doing business with in the government sector. People tell you about how many cuts you have to give, and before you get your money, it's depleted, and your profit, in fact, your whole profit is gone, because there are a lot of people who say, I have a cut in that money, I have a cut in that money. And so now this whole transparency executive order he also signed will also look in that direction to ensure that businesses in Nigeria are transparent. You know how businesses are done. You're not being cheated. Nobody bribe. It was also, if you look at it in a way, it will also have a ripple effect on the anti-graft war. If business is transparent, then corruption is then minimized.
And also the support for local content in public procurement. We know that the federal government has been advocating the made in Nigeria products, and to now know that there is a law backing every federal government agency to procure local content. It's a way of making sure that the Nigerian market expands. One of the basic problem we seems to be having is the fact that we import more than we do not export anything. That's why the foreign currency seems to be very highly unstable as it is. And well, with this, and we do hope that some of these contents will improve in quality and quantity as it is. Because if all federal agencies are procuring local content, the markets we have currently is enough to cater for all of these agencies, not to talk of catering for a majority of Nigerians. But again, we know that once the federal government starts something like this, it will of course filter down the country, and people want to see their leaders take interest in local contents. I remember when the former governor of Anambra State, Peter Obi, was talking about how he procured Innocent Motors vehicles for his aides when he was in office. And of course we saw that that was one of the things, because it was in the eastern part of the country. That was the first place I actually saw the Innocent Motors vehicles all around. And if we know that the government can trust all of these products, it will help the average Nigerian to also trust all of these products, and maybe we can start exporting as it is, and the economy would just be right.
True.
As it's
you know, you said something about the first time you saw Innocent Motors was, in the East. The funny thing is, I still get excited when I see somebody driving an Innocent Motor, but it's funny because you always know that this is Innocent Motor.
Yeah.
You look at it and you're like, oh, Innocent Motor. We shouldn't have to. I've seen one in Ibadan. I've seen a few in Lagos, maybe one or two in Lagos. But it shouldn't have to be that way. We shouldn't have to be looking for it, and trying to spot the difference. Like you're looking at the paper and like, okay, there's a red pen over there in the midst of blue. It should be something that we have all around.
All around, yeah.
Just the way you have other brands that Nigerians drive, we should enable car brands in Nigeria, any Nigerian product, to be able to grow beyond Nigeria. First of all, patronize them and enable them to also begin to distribute, to other countries within Africa. And we would. I don't know the durability of the car. I don't know how strong it is. I can't speak for it. But we have the National Assembly. We have the state assemblies. If these people were let's even leave the presidency for now. Let's just focus on the assemblies. If these people were patronizing, they were patronizing Innocent Motors and saying, look, for all members of the House, for all members of the House of Representatives, for all members of the House of Assemblies, for all members of the Senate, this is the car that we're going to drive. Do not give us any other brand but this car. You would have enabled him, whether he has the manpower to produce or not. But once you say, well, this is what we are going to do, he would then get more hands to ensure that these cars are produced. And then you see the cars everywhere. We need to start patronizing not just for cars, not just for clothes, even for music, for movies. Local content has to, even for employment. We had people, I think was it ExxonMobil recently? I can't remember which of them. But the arm of Pengasine, one of the oil companies, complaining recently that look, we have more, we pay more expats than we're paying, Nigerian workers. And then recently, the Ladol in Lagos, the managing director of Ladol, Jai Simi, was saying, even the vessels on the high sea has to be more of Nigerian vessels for oil and gas. Has to be more of Nigerian vessels. So these are some of the things that people are looking at to ensure that local content takes priority over foreign content. And then in places like India, I think it used to be 700 or something 30. Government takes 70. I think the other companies take 30. If you come into the country, it's partly government owned and partly you don't own all of them. But even if it's your company, let's ensure that the number of you employ more Nigerians, that you bring in expats from other countries to ensure, and those kind of things will also ensure that reduce the unemployment rates.
Exactly, and we do hope that it's not the usual way it is in Nigeria, when laws are just there for being there, and we expect that this is actually these laws are actually enacted upon. But moving away from that, the federal government is still within the presidency. There's been issues concerning the case of the Chibok girls, for the first rescued Chibok girls who were rescued a year ago. There have been complaints that they've not been allowed to see their parents. They are being kept in Abuja, in a secured environment, in a secured estate in Abuja, where they are being rehabilitated. And there have been calls from every angle in the last in the last weeks about how parents should be allowed to see their children and how these girls shouldn't just be another victim within another victim after the trauma they've experienced with the Boko Haram. But just yesterday, the presidency came up to say that today, parents will be moved to Abuja to visit their wards. The presidency cannot release the girls as it is based on security reasons. They can't return them back to their parents, but parents will be parents and relatives. Every child is allowed to have 2 visitors. They would be moved from Chibok down to Abuja to visit their wards.
Okay, so the girls have been back for a while now, and it's been, I'm very sure it's been tough for them too. That feeling of wanting to see your family, and it's also been very tough for the family. You know that your girl, I mean, there's a difference when they were still, you know, with in the Boko Haram, the stronghold of Boko Haram, and then, but now they're back. And you want to see your parents, and your parents want to see you, but you've not been able to. And I also understand, the funny thing is I also understand the procedures, because you can't just release them to the parents. There are lots of procedures they have to go. I mean, these are girls who have been away for 3 years. There are a lot of procedures, a lot of rehabilitation that has to be done. But again, I think that one of the strongest ways to heal for them will be to reunite with their family. Okay. You know, it's going to be a very strong healing process for them to be able to hold their parents, to talk to their family members, to be a good way to heal. Really, there've been a lot of calls from different centers. Why are you keeping them away from their parents? It's almost looking like another hostage taking, you know, even though they've been released. And it's a right step in the right direction to know that they are going to be seen. At least they're not releasing them totally, but at least you're going to see their parents. Whether it's supervised visits, whether it's not supervised visits, you know, they're going to see their parents. And I am very, very excited about how government is taking their rehabilitation seriously. Because normally, just they're back, and then maybe a week later you throw them in. The same thing I would treat the people who have been repatriated from other countries. You just give them transport fare and they go home. But some of these people have been in prison for a very long time, and they also have to be rehabilitated. So it's good to see that the rehabilitation for the girls is being taken seriously.
Well, and also the federal government has said that they will be incurring all costs, but details of the visits, details of the whole transportation scheme has not been released due to security. For security reasons. Because again, Nigerians have been asking, how are they going to move? Are they going to have a 13-hour journey? But again, we know that that's none of our business. No, just like a statement from the presidency that it will be an indictment on the presidency if there's another kidnap of Chibok parents again. It will be a great issue, and we do hope that the family would have a lovely time tomorrow. It's going to be an emotional moment tomorrow when parents reunite with their wards.
Okay, but you are already getting emotional.
I'm getting emotional.
You're getting emotional ahead. I just am happy for the parents who have the opportunity to have their daughters back. Yeah. And for those parents who have, like one other girl has been rescued recently. One more girl was rescued, yes, I think 2 days ago. And it's a good thing to have parents reunite with their daughters. And for the many 118 girls thereabouts yet to be released, we do hope that, you know, the parents also begin to receive good news of their daughters being back. Because I mean, there's nothing, you never really know the pain that these parents going through. The funny thing is, people think that it's easier to give up hope when you just say, oh, I don't care anymore. But it's actually easier. People think it's harder to give up hope, but it's harder to actually keep hoping. But when you keep hoping that, something's going to happen for me soon, it means that, I mean, there is this ache in your heart, there's this expectation, there's anxiety to know that, to keep believing that, something's going to happen for me soon. And for these ones that it's happened for, their parents, their children are back home. You know, we hope that for the other ones who are still waiting for their children, that, you know, something great happens for them soon, too, that they're able to reunite with their daughters as well.
Yes, on that note, we take a break and we'll be back on Him Live.
Let's do the morning brief and then do the report.
Go!
Thanks for staying with us. You're still watching AM Live here on New Frontiers Television. We move on now to our morning brief segment, which is a look at the headlines in the papers this morning. On the front page of the Punch newspaper, the major headline here reads, Nigerian arms scandal resurfaces in U.S. court. Contractor, U.S. arms dealer, battle over unsupplied bombs, others. You find more details of that report on page 16 of the Punch newspaper. Still on the Punch newspaper, government orders agencies to merge operations at airports, seaports, and you find more details on page 27. Federal government conveys 164 Chibok parents to meet girls in Abuja today. You find more details on page 25. Agony, shock as Moji Olaya dies at 42. Really sad story that was all over the news and the social media yesterday. But you find more details of that on page 46. Also, lopsided recruitment. Federal Character Commission may sue DSS. You find more details on page 3. Saraki, Ambode, others pay tribute as General Adebayo goes home. More details on page 9. Just at the bottom strip here. Hitches, jam to reschedule exams for candidates. More details you find on page 39. NNPC finalizing $6 billion worth of oil for product swaps. More details you find on page 38. Nurse denies giving Adeleke overdose. More details on page 16. Buratais alert Nigerians will defend democracy, says APC. You find details of that on page 7. Fire kills couple, 3 kids in Lagos shop. You find more details on pages 4 and 5. Med view bad from Europe over safety concerns. More details you also find on page 28. There is an insert here of scenes of the collapsed 3-story building in Iriakari Estate, Isolo, Lagos on Thursday. I mean, we're having a lot of issues of either fire or collapsed building or security men molesting Nigeria. I mean, those are just some of the things we're having. And these are things, again, we should start paying attention to. And finally, on the front page, why your bank can close your account. You find details of that on page 8. And just on the back page here on Friday Musings with Ayo Lutokun, it says elite conflicts and the anti-corruption policy. And that's all for the back page of the Guardian of the Punch newspaper.
On the front page of the Guardian newspaper, our military officials benefit from fights against Boko Haram. Transparency accuses them of creating fake contracts, says officer launder proceeds in the United Kingdom, United States. Defense false report. Details of all of this is on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Senate stops Buhari's appointee from resuming office. Details also continues on page 6. Lawmakers to probe alleged lopsided recruitment in DSS. Alt gas flaring in new bill. Telecom subscribers boost Nigeria's economy with 12 billion naira. Reps summon Emefiele Magu over 12 billion naira currency scheme. And my Grandmaster with Dan Agbese, the road we should not have taken. And also there's also a picture insert of one of the victims of the collapsed building rescued by the Red Cross officials at Ilasa, Isolo yesterday, where 3 persons were confirmed dead, many workers trapped, and 16 were rescued. That's the much on the front page of the Guardian newspaper.
All right, now moving on to the Metro column of the Punch newspaper. Kogi High Court jails robbers 8 years. Military men brutalize Lagos residents. Man handcuffed to police van recounts ordeal. AIG detains erring policeman. You've heard about the story of the man who was chained to a police vehicle and then dragged along. They say the police officer said, look, he was a fleeing cultist. But the AIG has detained air policemen. There's another report of military men brutalizing a Lagos resident. I mean, if it's not NSCDC, it's police officers. If it's not police officers, it's military men. You know, very soon Nigerians are not going to be able to come out of their homes because they are afraid of being brutalized by the men who are supposed to be protecting them. Still on the Metro column, adopters reduce Ondo permanent secretary ransom to 20 million naira. And that's all for the Metro column.
On the Metro section of the Guardian newspaper, how parents, 3 children died in Inferno. That's same as the inferno that happened in Lagos yesterday. One killed, several injured as hoodlums clash with suspected cult members. Lagos goes tough on street beggars. 4 policemen arrested for handcuffing bus driver to van. RCCG boosts police operations in Surulere. And the tragedy as another 3-story building collapses in Lagos. And finally, on Metro Colon, popular actress Moji Olaiya dies. That's the much.
All right, now on the editorial column of the Punch newspaper, it says here, fish out the fraudsters in NNPC. Between jumbo pensions for ex-governors and the people. And then there is a comic here of the 3 wise men, you know, the 3 musketeers. We call them the 3 musketeers. If you're going into Lagos, the sculpture you see of the 3 men, the 3 men are saying in Lagos, the progress of Lagos is paramount to us. And there are all the 3 men with big tummy seated here, and you know, in Nigeria. And these ones say the depth of our pockets is our main concern. So, priorities. Well captured. Now on the Viewpoint column, Nigeria's troubles not permanent, and that's by Fola Ojo. And that's all for the Viewpoint column.
I'm moving to the Guardian editorial. Africa and the plan to wash up. And later, thrones of Ife and Lagos. Courtesy, not boundaries. An opinion, we have Babatunde Jos and the state of our nation. Buhari's midterm reports. So far, so good. And still on opinion, the Tinubu factor in Yoruba and Nigerian affairs. Peter Obi and the rest of us. That's the much from opinion, editorial, and later columns of the Guardian newspaper.
All right, now looking at the education column of the Punch newspaper. Hitches, jam to reschedule exams for candidates. We saw this on the front page. Plateau to invest 11 billion naira in education. Arson strike has grounded academic activities in 42 schools. Still on ASIN is the Association of Federal Government College Ilori, and is an association of Association of Senior Staff of Nigeria. Rather, I think it's about federal government schools.
Okay.
Nasara to renovate 25 colleges. And still on education, NUT, which is National Union of Teachers, to picket private schools over unqualified teachers. CMS alumni lament takeover by government. Bridge House recommends A-level courses for pupils. And then finally, UTME, group urges JAM to improve its operations. And that's all for education.
On Guardian business, Abuja Cross River Adamawa hit by high transport fare. Medview shareholder seeks privatization of aviation agencies. Nigeria's economic situation changing for the better, says the Minister of Budget and National Planning, Senator Udoma. And finally, on business, Chamber opposes incremental budgeting. That's the much from Guardian Business.
Okay, let's also take some reports here from Punch Business. It says federal government merges operations of agencies at airports and seaports. That was also reported on the front page. GE, which is General Electric, to assemble gas turbines in Nigeria next year. Still on business, EU bars Medview airline over safety concerns. NACO MD resigns. Government to review Procurement Act. Chinese traders illegally exploiting Nigerian timbers, and that's coming from the ROMRDC, which is a Research and Development Council, which is Raw Materials Research and Development Council. NNPC finalizing $6 billion worth of oil for product swaps. Federal government seeks IDB support for economic recovery plan, and that's all for business.
On health news, eating suya increases death risk from 9 major diseases. Red meat raises mortality from illnesses including cancer, heart disease, and stroke. Magnesium-rich foods may lower blood pressure, says study suggests almonds, dark chocolates, bananas, avocados are high in mineral. New prostate cancer tests could reduce painful biopsies by 50%. Anesthetic wipes help men last. Okay, I think I'll move on to the next one. Walking 3 hours weekly can boost brain function, stave off dementia. That's the much from the health news. But the major thing you should take note of is eating suya increases death risk from 9 major diseases.
That's
So
a sad story, very sad story for those who love suya lovers.
Suya, yeah.
If you love suya, it increases death risk.
Death risk. Yeah.
But maybe it's how often you take it, so maybe you should reduce your intake. I don't think that Nigerians can basically just stop eating. I mean, there are just some things that Nigerians can basically stop eating, and suya is one of them. So just reduce the intake. Moving on, it's like, I don't know, imagine if somebody comes one day and say, eating jollof increases the, I mean,
There would be.
I mean, it's just not, people are just going to ignore that report and be
Nigerians
like,
will find it funny at
go
all.
check again. That's not true. All right, moving on now to Punch Sports.
Yeah.
It says, Katsina officials comment YSFON. Onyekuru replaces Olarewaju for Kosika Togo. Still on sports, Ukpefa Cup finals hold. And staying on sports here on Punch newspaper. Ex-judokas set to clash over NJF presidency. There are a lot of presidency going on. There is one for here in Nigeria. There's the one for athletics.
Yes.
People, I know that Mary Onyanli is interested in that. She wants to run for that. There's one for badminton, and then that is also up for election. And there is one for judoka. So, and it's because in those 3 sports, the election for those 3 sports have been causing a lot of rift, you know, in that industry. Yeah. Still on sports, Dalong seeks support for African athletes. NNL sees, okay, I'm just going to move away from that. South hosts NFF boss today, and that's all for sports news.
On Guardian Sports, Nigeria plays Togo June 1, meets Corsica May 26. EasyLearn renews battle with NFF over unpaid wages. We can't trace his files, says Chris Green. Ned Nwoko Golf Tournament takes off tomorrow. The Nigerian National League signs 200 million naira partnership with Bet Niger. That's the much on Guardian Sports. Okay, that's the much we're taking on from the papers this morning. We're going to bring you 2 different reports now. The first one is on something that is very common to everybody, which is the issue of flooding. We know that in Nigeria now we've officially entered the rainy season since April, thereabout. It's been raining heavily. It depends on the part of Nigeria that you live in. And I don't think that there's any part of this country that is not prone to flooding, no matter where you live in, even if you live in the best parts of the country. Even at the Abuja airport that was just renovated for about 5 billion naira, just, you know, was flooded some days ago. It shows you that there is no part of this country that is not prone to flooding. And one of the reasons is because of our habits, you know, as Nigerians. And our correspondent, Jumoke, went, you know, she went about to take, to get people's views on flooding, and then she has that report. Also, one of the things that also plagued Nigeria since 1999 is the issue of impeachment of governors. Joyfully, no president has been impeached, but we've had impeachment in almost every house of assembly in this country. So after the report on flooding, we're going to have a report on impeachment. To stay with us.
There are 2 weather seasons in Nigeria, the rainy and dry seasons. With the rain, there is usually so much relief and joy. The harshness of the dry season is reduced. For drought-prominent areas, the rainwater is collected for domestic use, and farmers are expectant of a bountiful harvest. However, this season also portends a dreadful threat to some other people, for one reason: flood. Flooding is the overflowing of water onto land that is normally dry. Floods can happen during heavy rains, when ocean waves come on shore, or when dams or break. Flooding may happen with only a few inches of water, or it may cover a house to the rooftop. Floods are the most common and widespread of all weather-related natural disasters. They account for a high record of death, displacement, and destruction of properties. Flooding is becoming an increasingly severe and more frequent problem in Nigeria. Nigeria in July 2012 experienced its worst flooding in 40 years. According to the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, 30 of Nigeria's 36 states were affected by the flood, which affected an estimated total of 7 million people. The estimated damages and losses caused by the flood were worth 2.6 trillion naira. Former Nigerian President Goodluck Jonathan had released about 17.6 billion naira to various states and agencies for damage response, food relief, and rehabilitation. Unfortunately, the impact is more felt by the urban people in such a way that recovery from flood is unlikely to be achieved without external aid. Urban people are more vulnerable to impact of flood because they set up homes in the floodplains and there is usually no provision for proper disposal of waste.
Government also do their own part, but by putting all this waste bin so that people, if there is where they can put their waste, there is no need of people throwing, when rain is falling, they will be throwing waste inside the rain, inside the gutter. At the end of the day, it's go and block the flow of the water.
Has the rain begun to fall? It is important for people to be aware of the basic simple measures they need to put in place to avert the hazards caused by flooding. These include, but are not limited to, improving and clearing drainages, harvesting rainwater, building dikes and levees, which are flood control structures built to fight river flooding and water surges. More importantly, people should be adequately enlightened to understand the environmental impacts of proper disposal of waste, which contributes to the blockage of drainages.
Governments also do their own part, but by putting all this waste bin so that people, if there is where they can put their waste, there is no need of people throwing, when rain is falling, they will be throwing waste inside the rain, inside the gutter. At the end of the day, it's go and block the flow of the water.
Flooding can be properly averted when people do the right thing. Olajumoke Babalola reporting for New Frontiers Television.
In every democracy, there are mechanisms to checkmate leaders from becoming autocratic. One of such mechanisms is impeachment. In the United States, impeachment proceedings have been initiated 64 times since 1789, and only 19 of those cases resulted in completion of the impeachment process. In Nigeria, since 1999, elected officers who have been impeached by the legislators run into 100. Most of these impeachments occur in the state houses of assembly, who seek to either remove a speaker, deputy speaker, or house leader. Most of these impeachments end up creating rancor in these houses of assembly. For instance, lawmakers in Edo State on May 2016 engaged in a free-for-all fight while trying to enforce the impeachment of the then speaker, Victor Edoro. These same incidents had occurred years earlier in the Rivers State House of Assembly. Speaking on the backdrop of the recent development at the Delta State House of Assembly, where the former Speaker, Monday Igbuya, was impeached, public analyst and coordinator for Africa Rebirth Movement, Amuda Musibudi, has this to say.
Impeachment as in itself is not bad. However, what would make it totally wrong is when it becomes a tool, a political tool, to win or to turn the tide of politics.
Amuda also stated that where due process is not followed, aggrieved persons can seek redress in court.
What the legislative arm cannot circumvent is the proceedings. For instance, if it is concerning a member of the House, there are what we call house rules, and these rules have to be followed. There are certain rules that we expect, the rules of natural justice. You know, the rule of fair hearing, or the pattern, but you must hear the other side. And of course, normal justice in constitution, you cannot be a judge in your own case. So, if principles of natural justice are violated, then the court can step in.
To move, Mr. Speaker, that the former Speaker of this House, the Right Honorable Monday Igbuya, be suspended from this House for a period of 3 months.
In what direction this wind of impeachment will blow for now, we'll have to wait and see. Precious Amayo, reporting for New Frontiers Television.
And also in our morning news here on New Frontiers Television. I am Precious Amai. We focus now on Nigeria. In exercise of the presidential authorities, acting President Yemi Osinbajo had on Thursday signed 3 executive orders that will significantly change some of the ways government business and operations are conducted in the country forthwith. Specifically, Mr. Osinbajo signed 3 executive orders giving specific instructions on a number of policy issues affecting the promotion of transparency and efficiency in the business environment designed to facilitate the ease of doing business in the country. Timely submission of annual budgetary estimates by all statutory and non-statutory agencies, including company owned by the federal government, and support for local content in public procurement by the federal government. The Senate on Thursday ordered an appointee of President Muhammadu Buhari, Lanre Gbajabiamila, to stay away from office as a Director General of the National Lottery Regulation Commission, pending his confirmation in line with the law establishing the agency. Kogi West Senator Dino Milaye, APC, had told the Senate on Wednesday that Mr. Gbajabiamila had resumed office after his appointment was announced by Mr. Buhari in April without Senate confirmation. Following Mr. Milaye's complaint, Senate President Bukola Saraki tasked Senate Leader Ahmed Lawan to investigate the allegation. On Thursday, Mr. Lawan reported back to the Senate and confirmed that Mr. Gbajabiamila had resumed in breach of law. Responding, Mr. Saraki commended the Senate leader for prompt action and ruled Mr. Gbajabiamila must not be seen in office again until his appointment is confirmed by the Senate. And now to health. The Nigerian government has accepted a proposal by Birmingham City University, United Kingdom, for partnership on a healthcare package in Nigeria. The healthcare package for improving quality care on aging population and diseases in Nigeria, HEPIC-C, seeks to provide a safety net for elderly persons in the country. The Minister of Health, Isaac Adewale, who disclosed this in Abuja when a 3-man delegation from the university visited him, said the proposal would improve the quality of care for the aged population. Mr. Adewale noted that aged people are susceptible to non-communicable diseases like hypertension, diabetes, and cancer, stating that it was for this reason that the Federal Ministry of Health accepted to collaborate with the British University on the health package that would improve care for the aged. Moving away from health now to politics, the All Progressive Congress has warned against any possible attempt to topple the government of President Muhammadu Buhari, saying Nigerians will defend democracy in the event of any coup. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, had alleged that some people were approaching soldiers for political reasons and warned that the soldiers who might heed the overtures of serious consequences. The National Publicity Secretary of the APC, Malam Bolaji Abdullahi, in an interview in Ilori, the Kwara State capital, said the APC, being the ruling party at the federal level, initially hesitated to react so as to allow Nigerians respond to it. He said they have hesitated to react so far because they think that the house belongs to them. So they wanted to wait for Nigerians to react, and Nigerians have reacted. We'll take a break now, and when we return, we have more stories from Nigeria. Stay with us. Welcome back now. Thanks for staying with us. Still focusing on national issues in Nigeria. There are strong indications that the Federal Character Commission, FCC, would sue the Department of State Services unless the agency submitted its nominal role. The chairman of the commission, Dr. Abba Shatima, in an interview, confirmed that the FCC had written to the DSS to demand its nominal role. This, he said, was to verify allegations of lopsidedness in the last recruitments by the agency, which was alleged to have contravened the Federal Character Protocol. The commission had given the DSS a 3-month ultimatum to clear the air on the controversy over the recruitment. Moving on now to issues around the judiciary, the Legal Practitioners Privilege Committee, LPPC, has unveiled a list of candidates to be considered for the rank of Senior Advocate of Nigeria for 2017. A statement by the Secretary of LPPC, Ahmed Gambo Saleh, who also serves as the Registrar of Supreme Court, on Tuesday said that 91 lawyers were screened for this year's SAN Award, bringing them another step closer to joining the elite club of legal practitioners. Mr. Saleh gave a breakdown of the candidates as comprising 67 practicing lawyers and 24 legal scholars. Akinlulu Oshimbadro, a brother of the acting president, Yemi Oshimbadro, was amongst those who made the list from practicing lawyers category, while Bolaji Owasoye of the Presidential Anti-Corruption Panel was picked from the academia. Still on the judiciary, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, has opposed the suit filed by the Managing Director of Capital Oil and Gas Limited, Ifeanyi Uba, seeking to be released from the custody of the Department of State Services, DSS. In the preliminary objection filed through his lawyer, KT Turak San, and argued before Justice Mohammed Idris of the Federal High Court in Lagos, the NNPC claimed that Uba and his company diverted 84,891,730 liters of petroleum motor spirit PMS belonging to the NNPC. The PMS, the corporation claimed, was valued at 11 billion naira. The NNPC claimed that the alleged fraud was discovered when the books of the corporation were being checked. The development, the NNPC said, was aimed at stopping leakages in revenue and non-remittance of proceeds from the sale of petroleum products. And with that report, we come to the end of morning news here on New Frontiers Television. Thanks for joining us. I am Precious Amayu. AM Live continues in just a moment.
You're still watching AM Live coming to you from the studios of New Frontiers Television. Thanks for staying with us. That was the news from our news desk. And this is our interview segment where we bring you to burning issues in the across the globe, not just in Nigeria, because I was going to say Nigeria, but then I remembered across the globe. And one of those burning issues is that recently, it's within the health sector. Recently, in DRC, there's the Democratic Republic of Congo. It was discovered that Ebola is back. People have died of Ebola, and of course, there are people who are also infected in the Democratic Republic of Congo, which is why almost every African country is resuming their fight against Ebola, and also the issue of the meningitis. Meningitis is still an issue in Nigeria, as much as we all want to will it away. It's still an issue.
In fact, we have about 11 or 13,000 cases now, with 1,079 deaths already. You know, and that's the funny thing, when we hear about things, we just always think that is not an issue. But so far, over 1,000 people have died of meningitis in Nigeria, which is a lot of people. And experts have said that it is, all of these deaths could have been prevented if we're just done, something rightly. And that's why we sat down with Jumoke Adako, who is a public health expert, to talk about the issues around, public health in Africa, and specifically on the Ebola and meningitis scourge, resurfacing in Africa. Do watch.